Welcome to my YouTube channel Silver Narratives. This is the story of a spoiled son, and the father who saved him, not with money, but with a lesson that changed his soul forever. When I was young, I believed life was naturally easy. Everything felt simple because my father had money, and that meant I never had to worry about anything. I didn't study seriously, I didn't work, and I never thought about responsibility. Whatever I wanted was placed in front of me without effort. If something beautiful caught my eye, I simply asked my father, and he bought it for me without hesitation. My friends often warned me to think about the future, to build something of my own, but I laughed it off. Why should I work? Why should I stress? My father's wealth felt like a shield that would protect me forever. Every morning I woke up late, stretching lazily as breakfast arrived on a tray beside my bed. My days were spent watching TV for hours or going out with friends. We ate at the finest restaurants, wore expensive clothes, and drove fast cars with the carefree attitude of people who believed the good times would never end. I never paused to think about money or how it was earned. If I wanted to travel, I packed my bags and left. If I wanted new shoes or the latest phone, I got them instantly. My father paid for everything, and I never asked how hard he worked or what sacrifices he made to provide that life. I lived only for today, never once thinking about tomorrow. But then one day, everything shifted. My father called me into his room. His eyes were serious, and his voice was firm. He asked me to sit down. I walked in smiling, expecting another casual conversation, but his expression did not change. In that moment, I felt something I had never felt before, a quiet warning in the air that my easy life was about to face its first real test. He wasn't happy, and he definitely wasn't joking. For the first time, I felt a strange nervousness, though I didn't understand why. My father had always been gentle with me, he never refused me anything. But that day, something in his eyes was different, heavy, tired, almost disappointed. He took a slow, deep breath before speaking. "You're not a child anymore," he said quietly. "You must start thinking about your future." I tried to laugh it off, replying, "Father, I already have everything I need." But he shook his head firmly. "No, my son. You have everything because I worked hard. But life is not always easy, and one day, things may change." I didn't truly grasp what he meant. In my mind, he was worrying for no reason. I smiled and reassured him, "Nothing will ever change, Father. Don't worry." But he didn't smile back. He simply looked at me for a long moment, his eyes filled with thoughts he didn't say aloud. Then he murmured, "We will see." I didn't understand, and honestly, I didn't try to. I assumed he was just in a bad mood. So I stood up, left the room, and forgot his words as soon as I walked out the door. I met my friends, laughed loudly, spent money like water, and enjoyed the night without a single thought about the future. I had no idea that my life was standing on the edge of a change I couldn't see. The next morning, I woke up late as usual. I stretched lazily and checked my phone, dozens of messages from friends inviting me out again. I smiled, got ready, wore my best clothes, sprayed my expensive perfume, and headed downstairs without a worry in the world. But when I reached the living room, I saw my father standing there, waiting for me. His face was serious, even heavier than the day before. "Sit down," he said. I sighed and sat slowly. "Father, I have plans," I said, hoping he would let me go, but he didn't care. He didn't even blink. He looked directly into my eyes and said, "You are not a boy anymore. You must learn about life." I rolled my eyes and replied, "Father, I do know about life." But he shook his head slowly. "No, you do not." Then he said something completely unexpected, "Come with me." Without explaining anything, he walked outside. I followed him, confused and irritated. He went straight to his car, opened the door, and waited. I sat beside him, not knowing where we were going. He started driving silently. His silence felt heavier than his words. As we moved through the city, I noticed things I had never bothered to look at before. People were walking quickly, rushing to work. Street cleaners swept the roads with tired arms. Men stood beside carts selling breakfast to passers-by. These were things I had seen 1,000 times, yet somehow, that morning they felt different, like the city was showing me a side I had ignored my whole life. After a while, my father stopped the car. We were in a part of the city I had never visited. The buildings were old, the roads uneven, and the people looked exhausted. My father pointed toward a man selling fruit on a small wooden cart. "Look at him," he said softly. "He wakes up before dawn. He works all day. He doesn't rest, he doesn't complain. He works because his family depends on him." I didn't know what to say. I just stared at the man, watching him arrange fruits with careful hands despite his tired face. Then my father pointed to a tiny shop nearby. Inside, an old woman was sewing clothes with a small lamp beside her. "She has been working for 40 years, he said. "She never had much money, but she works every single day to survive." I watched her closely. Her back was bent, her eyes looked weary, but her hands didn't stop moving. She kept working, slowly, steadily, quietly. For the first time in my life, I felt something shift inside me, something heavy, something uncomfortable. It was the beginning of understanding, the beginning of seeing the world not as I wanted it to be, but as it really was. I had never seen people like that before, and honestly, I had never even thought about them. Their struggles, their hard work, their simple lives, none of it had ever crossed my mind. My father turned to me and said quietly, "Do you see now? Life is not easy for everyone. Some people work hard every single day. But you, my son, you have never worked a single day in your life." His words hit me in a way I wasn't prepared for. I felt something unfamiliar, embarrassment, maybe even guilt. I wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come. For the first time in my life, I looked away because I didn't want him to see the confusion on my face. I felt small, smaller than ever before. Something inside me had shifted, though I didn't fully understand what it was. We got back into the car. My father didn't speak, and this silence felt different. He didn't need to say anything. I sat quietly, lost in my own thoughts. The image of the fruit seller arranging apples with tired hands and the old woman sewing clothes with fading eyesight stayed with me like shadows. I had never thought about people like them, never wondered how they lived, how they survived. My life had always been easy, comfortable, effortless. But now, for the first time, I felt something changing inside my heart, and I didn't know why. After a long drive, my father stopped the car again. This time, we were in front of a tall building, his office. I had been there before, but only for a few minutes, usually to ask for money. I never looked around, never cared about what happened inside. My father stepped out of the car and said, "Come." I followed him in. The office was buzzing with activity, people walking quickly, phones ringing non-stop, papers stacked everywhere. It was a world I had never paid attention to. My father led me into his personal office and sat down across from me. His eyes were serious but calm. "Do you know what I do every day?" he asked. I shrugged and replied, "You work." He nodded. "Yes, but do you know how hard I work?" I didn't answer. I just sat there, feeling more unsure than ever. He continued, "I wake up early. I make big decisions. I solve problems. I carry the responsibility of this entire company on my shoulders." His voice was steady, but there was a weight behind every word, one I had never noticed before. "I take care of this company, and I do all of it for you," my father said quietly. I looked around his office and suddenly noticed things I had never cared to see before: tired workers typing reports with sleepy eyes, employees rushing from desk to desk, people making phone calls with stress written all over their faces. I had always seen only the money my father handed me. I had never seen the effort behind it. A heavy feeling grew inside me, guilt, sharp and unfamiliar. Then my father handed me a small notebook. "From tomorrow, you will work here," he said. I laughed, thinking he was joking. "Me? Work?" But he didn't laugh. His face remained firm. "Yes. You will start from the bottom. You will learn." His words stunned me. "But I don't need to work," I said weakly. My father shook his head. "You do. Because one day, I will not be here. And when that day comes, what will you do?" I had no answer. I had never imagined a life without him. I had never imagined a future at all. My life had always been about comfort, not responsibility. But now, I realized I had no choice. My father had decided. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, for the first time in my life, I would work. The next morning, I woke up early. It felt strange and uncomfortable. I was used to sleeping late, living slowly, but now I had to prepare for work like everyone else. I got dressed and went downstairs. My father was waiting for me. He handed me a small bag. "Your lunch," he said. I stared at him, surprised. "Lunch? Can't I just eat at a restaurant?" He shook his head firmly. "Workers bring their own lunch. And today, you are a worker." We left the house and drove toward his office. But when we arrived, he didn't take me to his large, luxurious office where I used to sit while asking for money. Instead, he took me to a small room filled with dozens of desks. People were typing, calculating, making calls, focused, tired, busy. A man walked toward us, and my father introduced him. My new reality had begun. He was wearing glasses and had a serious expression, the kind that made me straighten up without thinking. "This is Mr. William," my father said. "You will work under him." And just like that, my father turned and walked away, leaving me standing there shocked and unsure. Mr. William didn't smile. He simply said, "Come with me," and walked off at a speed that forced me to hurry after him. He led me to a small desk in a crowded corner of the room. The desk was plain, the chair was uncomfortable, and nothing about it looked like the life I was used to. Then he placed a huge stack of papers in front of me. "You will check these," he said. "Look at the numbers. Find mistakes. Mark them." I stared at the pile. It looked like a mountain of work. "All of them?" I asked, hoping he would say no. But he nodded without hesitation. "Yes. And work fast." So I sat down and began. At first, it seemed simple. I read the numbers, line after line, checking carefully. But after an hour, everything started to blur. My head hurt. My eyes were burning. All the numbers looked the same. I wanted to stop so badly, to stand up, stretch, go home, do anything else, but I couldn't. Everyone around me was focused, working non-stop. No one talked. No one laughed. No one took breaks. This wasn't like my old life. This was something new, something I had never had to face before, real work. By lunchtime, I felt drained. My back hurt, my mind was tired, and I had barely finished a portion of the stack. I opened the lunch bag my father had given me. Inside was simple food, no fancy dishes, no expensive drinks, nothing luxurious. I ate quietly, looking around the room at the other workers eating their plain meals in silence. For the first time, I understood what it meant to earn something rather than just receive it. And it felt heavier than I ever imagined. I watched the other workers during lunch. They ate quickly, quietly, and went right back to their desks. No long breaks, no jokes, no fun conversations, just work. I missed my old life, the freedom, the comfort, the laziness. But at the same time, something new was growing inside me. A feeling I had never felt before, respect. Respect for these people who worked hard every single day, and respect for myself, because for the first time, I was doing the same. The afternoon was even harder. My back ached from sitting so long. My hands were tired from writing and checking numbers again and again. I wanted to stop. I wanted to go home. I wanted to escape. But I couldn't. I had a job now. Mr. William came to my desk and looked over my work. He pointed out several mistakes. "Do it again," he said. I sighed heavily. For a moment I wanted to argue, to tell him I was tired, to remind him who my father was. But I didn't. I simply nodded, took a deep breath, and started again. When the day finally ended, I felt like a different person. Yes, I was exhausted. Yes, my body hurt. But something inside me had shifted. For the first time in my life, I understood how hard people worked. For the first time, I realized that money did not just appear, it came from effort, sacrifice, and long days like this. As I walked out of the office, I saw my father waiting for me. He didn't ask how my day had been. He didn't lecture me or tease me. He just smiled, a calm, proud smile. And for the first time in my life, I smiled back, not because my life was easy, but because I had earned that smile. The next morning, I woke up early again. My body was sore, my hands stiff, and my eyes still tired. I had never felt this way before. A part of me wanted to stay in bed, but I couldn't, not anymore. I had work to do. I got dressed and went downstairs. My father was already sitting at the table, waiting for me, and for the first time, I understood what his mornings must have felt like all these years. He looked at me and nodded. "Good," he said. Just one word. But somehow, it felt different from before. It felt warm. It felt like he was proud of me, even if he didn't say it directly. When I reached the office, Mr. William was already waiting. He didn't smile, not even a little. "You were slow yesterday," he said. "Today, work faster." For a moment, I wanted to argue, to tell him I was new, that I was trying. But I didn't. I simply took my seat and began. The papers were waiting for me again, endless rows of numbers that made my head throb. My back still ached from the previous day, but I pushed through. I worked without stopping. I kept checking, marking, correcting, counting. By noon, I had finished my task. Mr. William took the papers, scanned through them, and finally said, "Better." Just one word. But it felt surprisingly good, better than buying something expensive, better than wasting hours with friends, better than the empty pleasure I used to chase. It felt real. It felt earned. And I realized I had never felt that before. During lunch, I sat with the other workers. They talked about their families, their children, their problems, their bills. They laughed even though they were tired. They ate quickly, finished their simple meals, and went straight back to work. I listened quietly. I had never thought about people like them before, never wondered how they lived, what they went through, how hard they worked. But now I was sitting among them. I was one of them. The afternoon was long and heavy. Mr. William gave me more work than before. "Let's see if you can handle this," he said. A part of me wanted to complain, but I didn't. I nodded, took the files, and focused. I worked through the pain in my back, through the tiredness in my hands, through the frustration in my mind. I wanted to prove that I could do this, not to Mr. William, not even to my father, but to myself. When the day finally ended, Mr. William looked at me. He didn't smile, but he said, "Not bad." Just 2 words. But to me, they meant more than anything I had heard in a long time. I nodded, gathered my things, and walked outside. My father was waiting. He looked at my face and asked, "Tired?" I nodded. He smiled gently. "Good," he said. And in that moment, I understood. I understood why he brought me here, why he pushed me, why he made me work. For the first time in my life, I didn't want to run away from responsibility. I wanted to learn more. Days passed. Then weeks. Then months. I worked every single day. In the beginning, it was painfully hard. My body hurt, my mind felt overwhelmed, and there were times I wanted to give up. But slowly, I improved. I made fewer mistakes. I grew faster, sharper, stronger. Work was changing me. And for the first time, I was proud of the person I was becoming. I began working faster each day. Mr. Williams still didn't smile, but he no longer complained as much. Sometimes, he even said, "Good job." Those two simple words felt better than any expensive gift I had ever received. For the first time in my life, praise meant more to me than money. I had started to understand something I never cared about before, the value of earning. Before this, I only spent money without thinking. But now, as I watched the hours pass, as I felt the weight of real effort, I finally saw how hard it was to earn even a single note. I also began noticing things I had ignored my whole life. I saw how hard my father worked. I watched him make difficult decisions, solve problems, guide people, and carry the weight of an entire company on his shoulders. I had never respected his work before. But now, I understood, he was not just a man with money. He was a man who had built something with years of sacrifice. One evening, my father called me into his office. He looked at me quietly for a long moment. Finally, he said, "You have changed." I didn't know how to respond. He continued, "At first, you were lazy. You didn't care about work. But now, you understand." I nodded. He was right. I wasn't the same person anymore. I felt different, more responsible, more mature, stronger. Then he surprised me. He opened a drawer, took out a small key, and placed it in my hand. "This is your office," he said. I stared at him in shock. "My office?" He nodded. "You are ready for more responsibility. You have worked hard. Now it is time to take the next step." I held the key tightly. It was small, yet it felt heavy, heavy with meaning, with trust, with a future I had never imagined before. The next day, I moved into my new office. It wasn't big, but it was mine. My desk, my chair, my files, my responsibilities. I was no longer just another worker. I was learning how to lead, how to manage, how to think the way my father did. It wasn't easy. I made mistakes. I had bad days. But I didn't give up. I kept working. I kept learning. I wanted to grow. I wanted to be like my father, someone who built something with his own effort. Looking back now, I laugh at my old self. I thought life was easy. I thought money was simple. I thought everything I had would last forever. But I was wrong. Life is not about comfort. Life is about effort. Life is about responsibility. Life is about building something with your own hands. My father taught me that lesson. And today, I am ready for the future, not because I have money, but because I have finally learned how to earn it.